Hi guys, welcome to another episode of MTG Mafia. This week we are showcasing Jund, the deck that I've been playing, and we're playing against Bant Control, which is Steven's list. It's been doing really well in our local meta and doing well even in like Star City events and stuff. So we'll take a look. We sped it up because this is a long game, but I think it's worth watching. I'm going to lead off with a Nighthawk here.
So as you're gonna see here, I detention sphere the Nighthawk, which, well, wasn't one of my better moves because as you're seeing now, Sean plays the Underworld Connections, and that just kind of breaks my back on this game. It's like, wasn't a very smart idea. I should have saved that detention sphere for a bigger threat like Underworld Connections. So live and learn the lesson.
Yeah, as a control player, you can take 2 life all day long. You need that Nighthawk to be more of a threat before you have to deal with it. So Underworld Connections, there's 2 in the main. This deck is really good at gaining life, and it is pretty fantastic at drawing some cards and gaining life with Underworld and all that. So your exchange of life is usually not a problem at all. You have 4 Thragtusk, you have 4 Hunt Masters, and it's rarely an issue where you really need to be concerned with your life total when you're trying to draw. Now right there, what I was showing you is that I had the Dreadbore, but what I'm assuming here is that he's not going to -2 his Jace for some more cards. He's going to look at my guys, think he can probably deal with what I have, and plus his Jace. That's my gut feeling. I wrestled with it for a while, but I figured the pressure was worth it. It's going to force him to play a spell, and I'm thinking that I'm going on the bet, and he does, plus his Jace. I don't know if that's right or not, but it seems like it would be. You can't really give control time, so I just put a threat on the board.
The big deal is like, what do you do with Jace? Do you crack him as soon as you can, or do you plus him up? Kind of general rule, if you're going against a control, you need cards, so you start cracking them. Like especially against Jund, because they can deal with Planeswalkers pretty easily with Dreadbore. That I feel like I need to crack Jace as soon as I can. Here, with Huntmaster, I was a little bit more prone to wanting to plus him up and keep Jace alive and force him to not be able to swing as much. He's still only going to be swinging for 2 here, but I don't have a Jace now, but at least he forced him to spend a card on it. And there you see another Underworld Connections. I would have had another detention sphere for it if I did not get rid of that Nighthawk. So kind of live and learn.
Yeah, and that Underworld, I was lucky to draw that other one. I'm pretty sure it was my top deck there, but it works out well. Definitely worth paying the 2 life to bring your land in untapped against this deck. The deck is, when you're in this matchup, it's designed to beat the control mirror. You have to be faster, and it's always worth, I would say almost always worth bringing that land in untapped if it's going to gain you time and an advantage against the control deck. Like if you can go turn 4, if you have the decision, do I bring this in tapped or not? If I want to play a Hunt Master every time, you're just like, yeah, definitely do. Bring in the pressure and just try to bring the beats as hard as you can. But the nice thing about the deck is it has a ton of late game. So you can bring the pressure early, force them to play cards, and you've got stuff like this, like the Wolf Run that I just smashed, that in the late game is going to make your tokens into just monsters and stuff. So pretty cool deck. Our local meta is just a lot of Bant Control. I have not played it at all in a real tournament yet. I think I haven't played against Bant anyway. I do have to tell you guys a story while we're watching this here. Last week I was playing this deck and doing fine, and in the final round I played against tokens. Well, he makes all these tokens. He plays Lingering Souls, and I have him dead next turn. I'm going to bonfire all his guys and just swing for the win. I have a bunch of guys on board. And he plays Battle Hymn to make 5 red mana after casting a Gather the Townsfolk. So he has 3 Lingering Souls, and he gathers the Townsfolk for 2 guys, Battle Hymns for 5 red mana, plays Burn at the Stake. I'm at 11, and just hoses me for 15, and I got burned at the stake. It was pretty awesome. It was one of my favorite losses in a long time. I don't usually enjoy losing, but I had to high five my opponent. That was a glorious win for sure.
So, here you see that I have that land up there is Alchemist Refuge. Um, Alchemist Refuge kind of adds this whole new power level to the deck where every spell you cast has flash. It kind of creates this new scenario where you're no longer restricted to sorcery speed stuff like sorcery speed creatures, sorcery speed Thragtusk or planeswalkers, or even sorcery speed detention spheres. Just save your mana open for like a possible counter spell. And then if they don't play something or they put you in a position, you can instant speed something. And I gotta tell you, it's pretty amazing just like dropping a detention sphere and taking out an attacker after a Kessig has been announced, like targeted, and you take it out. It's super cool. Like, I really like it. There he attempted to bonfire me, and I held him back with a syncopate. So yeah, kind of a normal match as you can see right now. Kind of control going back and forth.
Yeah, and the reason I played Bonfire there, I know I'm only getting one guy, but with 4 mana open, there's a good chance he's holding the Restoration Angel. There's probably a lot more that he could have done, and now with all his mana open. So I'm kind of testing the waters, seeing what he'll do, and I'll just put that out there to see what happens. It was, the Syncopate's not what I wanted to see, but it's worth it. Even if he plays the Resto, he's going to gain 3 life, but he's going to lose it, his Centaur either way, and then now I have the information, at least I know. So I'm going to attack for 4 here. And the reason I was showing you my hand on that last one with the Bonfire is because you're kind of in a weird spot where, like, man, I don't really want to waste this card. There's going to be some point down the road where he's potentially, and there's that Restoration Angel, where he's potentially going to have, multiple angels, or he could, if I don't know my opponent, he might have an Entreat the Angels, something like that. But here I'm attacking, he's going to double block, and so I'm going to pump, kill both of his guys, draw a card with my Underworld Connections, and pass. And again, this is that whole thing I was talking about with just simple card advantage in the early game, and then the kind of haymakers with Wolf Run at the end, where you're just pumping like a small little 2/2 wolf and threatening to do a ton of damage. This is a really tough spot to be against control deck when they have that Alchemist Refuge. That land is just crazy because your opponent can wipe the board at instant speed. So you get into these predicaments where you're going, okay, what in the world is he going to do on my turn? And it's kind of crazy. Usually planeswalkers are like the worst thing you can do at instant speed because you're getting no activation and you're leaving them exposed. But other than that, almost everything in the deck is really disgusting at instant speed. Detention Sphere is really good. Oh, and this is another huge player, and it's foil. That's a Rakdos return, and the card is just fantastic for the Jund deck. It pushes a lot of damage through. It forces your opponent to discard cards, and right there now there's no more guessing. I'm not worried about what's in Steven's hand. I'm just going to have him discard everything, and we'll kill the Garruk by redirecting the damage. And that's what we're talking about right now. But yeah, so your opponent can have 7 cards in hand, and if you've ramped enough lands, you can just crush their whole hand and force them to counter. And then the nice thing is it can protect your big spells too. Like, you can go the following turn, if you need to set up a Thragtusk, you just send a Rakdos return first to try to kill their whole hand. And if they do discard, they're usually not going to hold on to the counter spell. Most times they're going to hold on to like a Jace or a Thragtusk or that key card that will get them back into the game, maybe a Sphinx's Revelation. But they're usually not going to hold on to the counter spell if you can rip most of the cards out of their hand. So if you can go all but one, you're usually safe to land your threat the following turn. So, really good card. I have 2 in the main and 1 in the sideboard, and I don't think I would change that. I like it. It's a little clunky sometimes against aggro decks, but if you can maintain any control in the early game, it's even good against the aggro decks to just rip the rest of their aggro out of their hand and just help control the board in the future. Once you start to set up control, tear their hand apart and know that now they're in top deck mode and you're probably going to win.
So here you see Jace coming to the rescue. It's crazy, like, he's such a big player. I played against many opponents who, like, when I quote unquote factor fictioned, there's a lot of them who don't fully understand how to defeat a control player. Some people like giving me like weird piles between like giving me like my Sphinx's Revelation and land, hoping I wouldn't draw another Planeswalker or stuff like that. And the situations came up were a little bit interesting, but what I've come to find is like Jace just keeps getting better and better every time I play. I've never really had a bad moment where Jace didn't help me in a situation. Like, he's pretty good. Like, I'm really enjoying him. I currently have him as a 3-of in my deck, but I feel that 3-of is great. I can't really see going to 4 just because like I also like Garrick a lot. Like, Garrick is a house. Be able to like drop a Theric Tusk, then drop Garrick and draw 5 cards off of that is so huge. Like, I love it so much. Super good. Here you see me Sphinx's Revelation in an attempt to counter the Rakdos return.
I had a chance there where I could have just pushed the Rakdos return for everything, and I almost did, but my thought behind it was, let's get the cards out of the hand. I thought he might have the Revelation. I figured if he did, it was kind of bad news, and I should push everything into the return, but if he had the counter spell, which there was a chance he did, it'd be a huge waste of mana when I have a Wolf Run. So I pushed in for this hand, and then just attack with the guys and Wolf Run to try to get more damage. I think it's a smarter play. That was my gut feeling. You guys might disagree. If so, just leave a comment and say what your thoughts are there. But have my opponent on 2 cards. I can go all in. I can really try for it, or I can kind of guarantee that I'm gonna push through some damage and try to get in. So I think it was the right play. Terminus, that is not good news for our deck, but our hand is pretty loaded at this point. I've just been putting pressure with one guy, and so I have plenty more threats to play, and I've just been waiting for the sweepers to start. So here we go. We've been drawing cards. We've got plenty of life, plenty of things going for us. 2 open. By the way, Steven's Graveyard, I don't know. He's a dredge player, so maybe that's a dredge going across the board there, but he's built a wall with his graveyard to protect his Centaur healer. But it shall fall.
Yeah, kind of bad habit. I don't know. I've been shown different ways of how to set up a graveyard, and I've tried, but somehow always I build this snake of a graveyard that goes across into the battlefield, and so far I haven't been commented by a judge or anything like that, but I get the feeling I'm going to have to change my habits pretty soon if I'm going to keep playing this control deck, if I'm going to be having a graveyard like that.
Yeah, Steven was playing aggro up to this point, and it was pretty rare that you would have this gigantic Leviathan graveyard going on. But it's for all you Homestar runners, it's kind of a Trogdor-esque snake thing, where if you added some arms, it could just burninate the countryside. So maybe that's the hope. But yeah, right now, if a judge walks up, your board is like so sloppy. You are, yeah. So I fix it for Steven because it drives me nuts. It's no more Trogdor.
Yeah, but yeah. So, kind of general rules. Like, it's pretty good idea to get into good habits of like, quote unquote, good house cleaning. Keep your battlefield, your game state in a clean state. Make sure you don't go into any confusing states, because I've seen a lot of confusing moments. Like, somebody asks what kind of token that is. What's exiled, what isn't, what's in your graveyard, where's your graveyard, how many lands do you have untapped. I've seen these board states were just a complete mess. Exiles are mixed in with graveyards. No real clear indication between that their turn. People keeping the life totals on dice, just dice, and I've seen those get knocked around, and then people ask, where was I at life again, like what was my life total again. And I just recommend take the time to develop a good habit of keeping your board state clean, and you'll be, not only will you look professional, but it'll also kind of help make the games a little bit more interesting and less confusing.
Yeah, if a judge comes over and sees that your board's a mess, there's a lot of times I've watched opponents or people, next to me at like a large tournament, and they'll call the judge over and they'll say, "Judge, he played this, and then this should have been exiled, or this should have happened," and the judge will look and say, "Okay, where is this? Show me what happened." And the guy's board is so confused that he can't point out where he was or what he did, and the judge always is gonna mark you. He's gonna hit you for that because it's your responsibility to keep track of what's going on. An example of that, I played a tournament, let's see, probably like 4 or 5 months ago when Blade Splicer was still in, and I had my opponent Restoration of Blade Splicer, and for his token he put in a microscopic dice that was like a couple millimeters as a 3/3, and apparently he said he had a Blade Splicer token. I didn't. I did my combat math for the following turn, and or it was like 2 turns later, figured out what I was going to do and attacked, not seeing this microscopic dice. And he said, "Yeah, well, I'm blocking with this." And I was like, "Well, what is that? That's stupid tiny little dice." And so we called the judge, and the judge said, "Yeah, you got to represent that correctly." And so it went against him. But yeah, just really be smart. And then I'm getting up on a soapbox here, but when you're playing Magic at a big tournament, speaking of house cleaning, clean your armpits. Use some soap. The worst thing you can do at a tournament is to show up just stanky and nasty because you haven't showered. It is worth getting a hotel room, spending some money to shower. Like, don't make us suffer around you. Man, I have played against some stanky people in tournaments, and I appreciate it when you've bathed. So please bathe. All right, I'll get off my soapbox.
That was actually kind of intense. I didn't see that coming.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think we might have to start doing our own podcast so we can have our own soapbox moment every week. For right now, we'll get back to the game after having our long rabbit trail. As you see now, Olivia is down. Olivia, as you can see, they just stole my Thrag Tusk.
Yeah.
I'm not happy. Olivia, like, before rotation was under control because of all the clones and everything, but now it's like this powerhouse came out of nowhere and took over the meta. Like, Olivia is good against creatures, it's good against control, it's good against just about every deck, and it's super hard to deal with. If you can't deal with it, the turn it comes out, it shoots, it kills things, it steals stuff, it gets bigger. It's overall just an amazing card against just about. It's an amazing card right now for the meta.
Yeah, an interesting thing. I know the Detention Sphere would have been discarded earlier with a Rakdos return, but this is the kind of thing as a control player you save your Detention Sphere for, is a monster threat. You don't really worry about your Vampire Nighthawk unless it's like presenting lethal or really going to be a problem, or you think your opponent's going to wolf run with it or something like that. But in an early game, and this is not to rag on Steven, it just was the decision that was made, but typically you're going to want to hold that Detention Sphere, and then you get a threat like this where you're like, man, how am I going to deal with this? I need a Detention Sphere, I need a sweeper, whatever. You want to save it for that kind of thing when it's really going to shift the momentum in the game. Just use your life as a resource and know that momentum, and especially with a deck like Bant Control where you have so much potential to gain life, know that you have that life gain in your deck. You just need to make the time to get there, to get your cards. You just need to slow the game down enough to get to your late game, and you should win. But yeah, Olivia, just disgusting. The card is good. I've been playing it in every match that she survives. I don't think I've lost a game yet where she has survived for more than a turn, maybe a turn and a half. Is the longest that I've. I think that's all you really need. You just need to steal a creature or two, gain some advantage, and it's pretty much over. So
yeah, there was that game. I looked at that Nighthawk under that Detentions for the whole game and wonder why I did it. So yeah, that's our game right there. So long game.